All right, so we want to discuss, I think, the most poignant scene, the most important scene of uh, this past Sunday's episode. So a lot of things happened, but I'm going to go ahead and jump to the very end, the last 5 minutes, where Rick calls Negan. From what I've seen online, a lot of people didn't like what was said, in my personal opinion, I think it made perfect sense for both characters. Starting with Rick, I don't think I didn't believe any of the things he was saying. That was his number one concern. I feel like after seeing that letter addressed to Negan from Carl, like if
Oof.
Carl hadn't died, that I don't think that exchange ever would have happened. Not in that way. Um, I think that he was Carl. What does he say? Carl asked for peace, but it's too late for that. I
Mm-hmm.
think he wanted to know what Negan's response to that would be, and it's obvious that one, Negan's tired, and two, he was really hurt at the loss of Carl. Like he took it very personally, which didn't surprise me at all. I always assumed that that would be the case.
Yeah.
Um, and when he says to Rick, I killed two of you to keep the rest of you alive. What a lot of people are not considering is, given Simon's actions and given the fact that Negan told Father Gabriel that he wasn't always in charge, he took over from someone else, that having these rules in place and these lessons or whatever of killing one, the whole point of that is to keep the other saviors in line, because clearly, like Simon, a lot of them are bloodthirsty and want to put their boot heels on everyone's neck and slaughter everyone. Like that's what happened to the ocean people's men. They killed all the boys, all of them. Now, did Negan have a part in that? I'd say no. I think he honestly believes that people are a resource, and he believes in making deals and keeping people safe. I don't think I think that was a situation that either one, Negan didn't sign off on, or two, it was before Negan was in power, and maybe he took power shortly after the slaughter of the ocean people's men. That's my own personal theory. I mean, we haven't seen any flashbacks of Negan yet. I'm sure they're coming, if not this season, in season 9. But when he says, "I'm trying to save you," he was very sincere. He was very serious in that statement. And if he hadn't made an example of Abraham, like he obviously had to make an example of someone else after Daryl's outburst. But the whole point of making an example of Abraham, and keep in mind, this is after the satellite and Rick's people killed like 30 saviors. This is after, Daryl blew up another six or so on the road, and Negan only took one. Now, I'm not condoning Negan's leadership per se, but there's clearly a method to this. He's not insane. He's
Mm-mm.
not totally evil. Carl rolls up at the sanctuary and then he gives him a grand tour, takes him home, and makes him dinner. That's not something you do if you're just a totally evil person who kills for the fun of it. Negan has an ulterior motive, and I really do think it's to keep the others in line. So this is the balance. We don't rape, we don't murder everyone. We make an example, and we keep them in check. It was never Negan's intent to go to war. He had to go to war in response to Rick and the others. So I think it's going to be interesting what happens next. I don't think that Carl's death was Rick's fault. Carl has always been independent and, doing what he wants to do. However, it is fair to say that there was a domino effect with Rick shooting above Sadiq's head and chasing him off as opposed to helping him. That was a direct cause and effect between Carl going out there. Now I think Carl made some stupid moves, and Sadiq's plan was totally dumb as fuck. But if Rick had just brought him home to begin with, Carl wouldn't have been out there. That's true. So Negan was right about that. Like you should have been home instead of running around and waging war and playing in the trash can.
And to Negan's credit, if Rick had looked at people as a resource, he would not have tried to scare Sadiq off. He would have tried to take Sadiq in, and therefore wouldn't have scared him off, and therefore not created a situation where Carl felt the need to go out and get him back.
Well, yeah,
Just
uh,
something to think about. I mean, you know.
yeah, Negan's whole resource thing. I mean, we learned in this episode that it was Negan who made the call to not have Maggie and the rest of the Hilltop people killed. He said, just take one. and Simon followed that rule, right? Um, Trash people, only one was supposed to die. Simon killed all of them. So Negan seems very set on killing one, maybe two people max if someone steps out of order, again with Daryl. Obviously, that happened with Hilltop, as Jesus tells Rick and the others. Negan killed one. It doesn't seem like anybody was killed at the kingdom. Seems like they came to an agreement. We'll have weekly meetups. We won't trespass on your land. Anyway, just consider that a teaser for the other episodes where I will expand on that even more. But anyway, the point is that I think that Negan was sincere in what he was saying, that he believed everything he was telling Rick, and I think Rick did not believe any of the things he was actually saying.
Yeah.
I don't think his focus right now is killing Negan. He's still thinking about Carl. He can't even bring himself to look at Carl's letter. He knows what Carl's last wishes is, and the first thing he does is call Negan and say, "I'm going to kill you next." Like, I wasn't buying it. And it has nothing to do with Andy's acting. I think it came across in the exact manner that he wanted it to, and that Rick is grasping at straws right now.
Yeah. He I it was that was a really interesting conversation. We kind of knew from the mid-season finale that Carl was the first person who sort of like got under Negan's skin a little bit. I mean, like that was the first time where he ever let his guard down and sort of like rethought his actions and actually thought for a second, maybe I am being an asshole here. And then that was very apparent when Rick told him that Carl had died. I mean, it cuts to like I mean, you just see his like whole the color just drains out of his face. Like he like physically gets hurt and like it sort of like sits down, like can't even
Yeah.
stand anymore. I mean, it's like
And
the
he's
first
like, was it
time
me? Was it us? Like, he felt
the
guilty.
the first thing he asked was like, was it us? He like had to know, and
Well,
even Rick was surprised. He's like, why do you want to know?
well, Rick could have lied. He could have said, yes, it's your fault. That's I'm coming for you. He doesn't. He tells him the truth.
Yeah,
Like, Carl was fighting to save someone
he
else.
still used it to make Negan feel more guilty though, because he said, he was out there trying to help somebody.
Well, I mean,
Negan's like, oh
when Negan
great.
turned it around on him,
Yeah, that's true.
um, it just sucks that Rick was playing around in the trash heap while that was going on. I actually have the letter here. Well, obviously, they didn't show the whole thing, and the handwriting is a bit tough, which Chandler admitted. Um, so I'm
Yeah,
trying to read some of it.
Chandler was meant to be, sorry, Carl. Carl was meant to be a doctor because only doctors have handwriting that shitty.
This is true.
My
Um,
dad is one. Trust me, I know. Can't read anything he says to me.
Negan, this is Carl. Um, I got bit. We didn't ever. You might be gone. Maybe my dad killed you, but I don't think so. Which, Rick's reading that. Um, I think you were working on a way out. Maybe you got out, or it might be a lost cause, and you just want to kill all of us. And then I think you have underlined. I think you have to be something blank. What you wanted. Maybe you'll beat us. Obviously, you can't be reading this and then say, I'm going to kill you, Negan, even though my son's last wish is for us to be best friends and picking tomatoes out in the fields.
Well,
Like, I mean,
it was really funny.
because he told them about the dream.
Yeah, and I just remembered something because when just for a second, if you remember back to the first episode, I believe, when he shoots over Sadiq's head, and they're walking back on the road, and Rick says something to the effect
Picking
of, he's
strawberries.
like, "What do you think we're going to be picking strawberries with Negan?" And then Carl's fantasy is like him like picking something that they grew. I think
Tomatoes.
it was something similar,
And
right?
he's friendly with Judith. I think it's funny that Rick is the only one who looks old as dirt. Like, Eugene looks the same. Sean looks the same. What's his name from the Kingdom? Jerry looks the same. Even Negan kind of looks the same. Was he?
Well, Jerry's Asian.
Well, Negan's not. Eugene isn't. He made his father look old as
That's
balls.
true. Why was Negan's like the same age? That doesn't make any sense.
Everyone, Rick aged like 20 years. Everybody else looks perfectly the same.
Mm,
I think that's funny. Or although it might be a commentary of Carl knowing that the weight that his father continuously carries, like that can age you
yeah,
prematurely.
it's
So
true.
maybe it's that. And Rick doesn't learn to let some things go. Maybe he will look old and decrepit and on a cane.
It's possible.
Um, But I think uh, it's just I don't think that Rick meant any of those things he was saying after reading that letter. How could he possibly? He's like, well, what do you
Uh,
think Carl meant? And he reads this letter explaining what Carl means, what he wants to happen.
So this whole thing is really like leading up to what I've thought is going to happen since the beginning of the season, which is that Rick is going to have some sort of like opportunity at the end of the war where he's like, on top of Negan, like with a knife or something or a gun to his head, and could take him out right then, and instead decides to not and spares his life because of Carl's last wishes. Because that would be a true violation of Carl's last wishes. You know what I mean? He's written 2 letters to both these men saying stop fighting. There's no way that like Rick in good conscience is going to be able to do something that cold blooded in a moment like that, which ties into the whole like my mercy prevails over to my wrath, which they've been saying since the beginning of the season. It all makes sense. So I'm looking forward to that.
I just want to say I thought it was most interesting that not once did Negan say, I'm going to kill you first, Rick. He was telling him to basically stand down, like, you
Yeah.
lost, you didn't kill me. I was trying to save you. Like, he wasn't giving any threats or anything. He was being,
I love Rick,
I,
but man, he really lets his
well,
emotions get the best of him
but
sometimes.
Negan's was more focused on Carl's death than anything else.
Negan doesn't
I
take
had
things
plans.
personally. That's the thing.
Well, he
Like,
took this very personally. Like, he had plans for Carl. Even after Carl kind of duped him a little bit at Alexandria, he wasn't bothered by that.
thought we were having a moment, you little asshole.
Um, he really truly respected Carl, and he doesn't throw any. I mean, I think he was pissed at Rick for letting that happen on his watch, basically,
Yeah.
and that
He
trumps everything
said that
else.
kid was the future, which I think is like
How
something
we all
that the
felt.
audience really resonated with. I think that's the reason why everybody was so upset
Well,
that they were killing
Negan was
Carl in the
us.
first place. Yeah.
Negan was
That was the
us.
reason why everybody was so upset about
Ah,
Carl's
we're
death in the
Negan.
first place, right?
Uh,
Like everybody was like that he's supposed to be the one that takes over at the end of the show, right? Like that's why everybody was so bummed. I know, I heard. We are Negan. It was a good joke.
he didn't say anything. He just kept
Well, I was right in the middle
going.
of the point.
Oh yeah.
Um, what else about their conversation?
Just that Negan's focus was on the loss of Carl. First it was was it his fault? Two, what Carl could have been, and then three, Rick, you dropped the ball as a dad. You should have been home watching your kid and trying to run around trying to kill everybody.
Which I don't necessarily disagree with, and look forward to a video on this where we're actually going to compare Rick and Negan's
Well, yeah,
leadership styles.
basically, my evaluation of Negan has changed greatly since last year when we were on Talking Dead, and I was asked about the difference between Rick and Negan's leadership, but now I have more insight into his character and his thought process. And I think he does everything with purpose. There's a reason to what he's doing, and I don't think he's.
He's not a murderous psychopath. I mean, he's certainly like brutal and cold in his methods, but he's definitely not crazy. There's everything that he does has some sort of reason or meaning, and he's proven that he practices what he preaches. Because when Simon came up to him and was like, "I want to take out all the trash people," he got pissed at him. He's like, "Have you forgotten what we do here? That is not." He said, "That's the easy way. Saving people, what we do is hard." Like he believes this shit, man. He's like into it.
He has good reason for what he's doing. And if you compare him to Philip, to Gavin, to Joe, all these other nemesis that Rick and the others have come across, Negan is the most genuine of them all. He's the most sane
I would say he's the
by
most
reason
sane.
of
Yeah,
them all, and
he's probably the smarter, like the most smart too. I mean,
he's the most rational.
oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, something was
He's sort of
wrong.
a
Something was
dick,
wrong
but
mentally with all the others I just mentioned.
particularly
But
Philip. I mean, that guy was off his rocker.
but I think ultimately, Negan, we're gonna get down to the bottom of why he's doing what he's doing and why he's leading in the manner in which he's leading. So,
Anything
yeah,
more?
I was just about to ask you that.
I think that's about it. If you guys like our content, make sure to subscribe up here. Also follow us on Instagram at RLRashone, and please check out the brand new blog, thelivingrashone.com. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.